Welcome everybody to today's lesson. We're just looking at common mistakes today. So these are some typical mistakes that my students have made in the last couple of weeks. So number one guy from a higher class. Now this student is, he's at school, he's very almost at university I think, but he wanted to talk about a boy who was in a year older than he is in. So we can't really say this, one guy from a higher class. It starts to sound like one guy from the upper class and not the working class. It starts to sound like a sociological statement. So we don't want to say one guy from a higher class or the higher class. We want to say something like this: one guy from the year above me. I think it's very clear, the year above me. One guy from the year above me. And then it makes it clear that we're talking about an older pupil, a pupil who is in a year that's older than he is in. Okay, so if you're in year 7, which in England means you're 11 or 12, and you want to talk about somebody in year 9, which is in England 13 or 14, you ought to say one guy from year 9, or one guy from the year above me, or one guy from one of the years above me. Or an older boy, it would be very clear as well. Okay, number 2, it is under 0 degrees. Now, I'm not sure why, I suppose just because it's a collocation, but when you're talking about weather and you're talking about 0, we usually say below 0. We use the preposition below and not under. So it is 5 degrees below 0, or it's -5 degrees. You can also say that, -5 degrees. -5 degrees. Or you can just say it's -5 and everyone will understand you. Or it's 5 degrees below, not under, below 0. Number 3, all the money were from teaching physics. This mistake is very common, and it's well worth remembering that in English, money is not plural. And I'm not just talking about the word money here. I actually mean even amounts of money are always singular. £100 is singular, even though it's pounds with an S on the end. It's the same for distances. It's the same for units of measurement. 30 centimetres is a short line or whatever. 30 centimetres is a short distance. 3 kilometres is, not are, 3 kilometres is a long distance. So with the same with money, £50 is a lot of money. £50 is not much money. But all the money was. Money is always singular. The word money is singular, and amounts of money are also singular. So be careful there, because that's a very typical mistake. I imagine that the word money in many other languages is a plural word. It certainly is in Russian, but again, I think it's probably the same in a number of European languages as well. So in English, money is singular. It's not plural. Okay, on to number 4. She gave it her back. This is incorrect syntax, and I think the student, and she said it herself because she's fluent in German, I think she said that she was using German syntax. I'm not sure, I'm not any good at German. So she gave it back to her. She gave it back to her is how we would say it in English. She gave it back to her, and not she gave it her back. Okay, number 5, we've got so strict rules. There are so many mistakes with so and such. I have a video only on so and such, and if you type into YouTube, Mr. Skype Lessons, so, such, you'll find it immediately. So this is a mistake with so and such. We use so plus adjective, such plus noun, maybe with an adjective before it. And this one has got a noun there. That's why we've got to say we've got such strict rules. Okay, so plus adjective full stop. Such plus adjective plus noun. Yeah, plus adjective, I'll just put adj plus noun. But you don't have to have the adjective there. It will still be such a pleasure. Such a wonderful pleasure. Number 6, have you heard about this artist? Now this is possible, but the student didn't want to use this form really. They used the incorrect preposition. They used the wrong preposition. this preposition wasn't what they wanted to say, although this preposition is correct sometimes. Hear about means hear about news. Hear of means have you ever heard of this person? Have you ever heard the name? And that's what the student wanted to say. They were asking me if I had ever heard the name of this artist. So if you're asking someone, have you heard of Mozart? It means, have you ever heard of this name in your life? And I think the majority of people have heard of Mozart. Certainly the majority of adults have heard of Mozart. But maybe there are quite a few kids out there that haven't come across his name. They haven't stumbled on his name. And so you might say they have never heard of Mozart. Okay? But hear about, it's when you say, have you heard about the latest Brexit news? Or have you heard about... it could still be a person. Have you heard about so-and-so's mother? She has just got divorced, something like that. It's about news. So then we would say, have you heard about that person's mother? Okay, so hear about means news. Hear of means have you ever heard this name before? Okay, you put so much attention to different details. I can't remember why the sentence said that, why the student said this sentence, but you don't put attention to, you pay attention to. Pay is often used in strange collocations. Pay attention to is one. I mean, why do we say pay? I don't know. It's a collocation, but we say pay attention. We also say pay someone a compliment. So if you pay someone a compliment, you say something nice about that person. So pay is used with a number of different nouns, pay someone a compliment and pay attention. So just remember these pay collocations because they're useful. And that does sound a little bit, well, it certainly sounds wrong. Put attention, no, pay attention. Okay, number 8, it's quite a well-spread feeling. This is almost correct. It's well spread that bothers me. We have a perfectly good here, we have a perfectly good word for saying that something is all over the place, and it's widespread. Widespread. It's one word, widespread. So it's quite a widespread feeling. When something is quite widespread, it's fairly well. It exists in a lot of different places. So if you say the news is widespread, lots of people know the news. But if you say this species is widespread, it means it lives in many, many different places. So it's widespread. Okay, number 9, if we will talk about business. Okay, stop right there when you do this with the word if, and you mean conditional if. This is first conditional. And the problem with first conditional is a lot of students say if I will, if he will, if they will. It's always wrong. In English, you put the will part in the other clause, in the main clause. This is the subordinate clause, and we don't use will in the subordinate clause. We use it in the main clause. So if we talk about business, we will come to an agreement, something like that. Will comes in this part, not in that part. Now, this isn't true if you're using if like the word whether. If you say, I don't know if he will come, that's okay. That's not first conditional. That's I don't know whether he will come. And you can certainly use will after if it means whether, because then it's not a conditional, it's not first conditional. But first conditional, no will. Number 10, he is accused in organising the ambush. It's a prepositional mistake. So many mistakes are prepositional mistakes. He is accused of organising the ambush. Now, if you want practice with these verbs and prepositions, I have one lesson on verbs and prepositions, but it only deals with about 10 or 15 of them. I also have loads of lessons on reporting verbs. Accuse is a reporting verb. Just type in Mr. Skype lessons reporting verbs and you'll get loads of lessons on reporting verbs, and it will include the prepositions that they go with. Last one, number 11, I don't know him good. This is an adjective. It's an irregular adjective. We don't make the adverb by just saying goodly. We make the adverb by saying well. So I don't know him well is what we need to say here, because this is not modifying him. It's modifying the verb know. I know him well, I don't know him well. It's when we're modifying a verb, so it's an adverb we need and not an adjective. You can say something like, he is a good man, or I know he is a good man, because then good is modifying man. But I know him well, I speak English well. Yeah, something like that, not I speak English good. Okay, somebody just asked about hear of, which is have you ever heard of someone, of the name, and hear about, which is news. There's nothing else to say on that, but do have a look at some sentences online and that should make everything clear. Hear of, it just means have you ever heard of someone. Hear about, it's the news. Okay, thanks everybody for watching. If you've enjoyed this lesson, please click on the like and please subscribe, and